Aloha! You may know me, I'm Jason Schwartz. You may know this guy if you've watched our show. This is Dr. Santo Triolo. He wrote a really terrific book, very friendly, easy to read book called The Psychology of Stupid. And we thought we would explore the concepts of the book by looking at what's going on in the world and then referencing different chapters where these kind of things are explored in the book. So thank you for being here with me.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it very much.
We're designing the show as we go. The rooster crowing, we just added that as a special effect. No, actually, you got a real rooster. We are in the field today.
Yeah.
He may be part of the show. We'll just let him sing as he chooses. What I've done to make it easy for me is I made little summaries that are 40, 50 words of all the chapters. And what we're going to do, when we do these segments, we're going to have the book, we're going to have my little list here, and we're going to be talking about subjects like that. That's how we're going to do it, and then we're going to reference. And that's the way that we hope will give you an opportunity to get up close with a psychologist. If you live on Maui, in Wailuku, you can see the email address there. And Dr. Triolo is here on Maui. But I'm sure that, let me ask you, do you deal with people from a distance as well as in person?
Sure.
You do?
Yeah.
See that?
I'm licensed in Massachusetts. I was licensed in Georgia. So, and from time to time, I have people from out of town that, have been here. And I just follow up with them.
I see.
Yeah.
Now he's going to speak up a little more because I'm too loud, right? And he's too little.
Okay.
No, okay.
I can.
No, that's all right.
Yeah. So
this book. Tell me a little about the book or what you're thinking.
Well, the start of the book basically was I'm looking at some tragedies that have taken place in our country, and right now we're living through some major tragedies. I'm sure you're aware of what's happening in Minneapolis, Minnesota, right?
Let me stop this for a second. How is this book relatable in present time? I know that right now, besides the rooster crowing, that means something's up, we know.
Yeah.
But in Minneapolis and Minnesota, the things are up, and I think that's what stimulated us to realize how this series could be relevant to what's going on in our world. So, talk to me.
Yeah, so the way I look at it right now is we're back to 1776. That we have an administration that really enjoyed bullying. And bullying is in the book. Where does it come from? How does it manifest itself and so forth? What we find with bullying is that the more power you give them, the more they take, and the more they expect to take.
So, say that slower. The more you let the bully get away with his actions, the more brazen they get.
Absolutely.
And it becomes their comfortable normal.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I'm glad that you're here with me, you're talking to me about this, is that we've reached a point in our society where violence is the next step. That's why I say we're revisiting 1776. If you know anything about the Revolutionary War, basically they had a belly full of being pushed around by the British, and eventually they said enough is enough. I'm hoping that we don't hit the skids and end up in like another Revolutionary War. I'm hoping that we can do something different that will be less violent. And one of the things that I'm hoping to do is to find out who these people are that are actually doing these things that are hurting other people, and see if there's a possibility if they would just basically rethink it and say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go to Home Depot and harass people there that are working for a living. I'm not going to put a grandmother in cuffs in front of the grandchildren. I just won't do that. If we have enough people that would just simply say, I won't do, then we can avoid the next step. And the next step, I think, is violence. And I wouldn't be surprised if I see that, coming up.
What chapter we think we are in the book? You have any thoughts?
Well, I don't know. It's
We're going to stop this and get the book. Aloha, we got the book now. I would think that bullying is hard to say, oh, that's chapter 8, because stupid and bullying seem to go in the same.
yeah. So I can explain it to you pretty quickly and pretty
Sure.
easily. We have a tendency, a DNA is set up in such a way that we believe in hierarchy. Now, how that comes about is that as human beings, as animals actually, we depend on people around us to take care of us. And so we start to have the concept of tribes. We start to have the concept of family. We start to have the concept of nations, nation building and so forth. There are animals where this stuff doesn't happen. In other words, you have animals that just, they're hatched and then they're on their own. And so there's no connection, there's no pods, there's no like wolf pack or anything like that. Now, once you start having tribes, then you start having boundaries. Once you start having boundaries, then you start having a hierarchy. My religion is better than your religion. I'm having a white skin. You don't have a white skin. I'm better than you are. And that opens the door to taking over. Opens the door to whoever has the most muscle will win. And that's happened in our history. All of our history. Go back as far as you want to go back. It's usually whoever has the biggest muscle, the strongest muscle.
So, what you just said to me in a few words is, this is built into the way our society is.
Yeah.
Not only that, when you are dreaming of a passive, let's go play in the sandbox together, that's not going to be an easy moment. So 1776 is also 2026. 250 years later, we're commemorating possible violent next step.
Yeah.
How do you stop this?
And somebody has to come.
Someone rational, someone saying we're not going to fund the government if it puts any money in for ICE. Wait a minute. We passed this big, beautiful bill that gave 15 billion or 75 billion in special designated monies to them. And now they're asking for money in the new budget, and then Congress, which is, again, split. Yeah. So now the government might close because so stupid.
Yeah, you got it wrong. You got it wrong. This is the macro look. You got to go into the, basically the micro look. You have to go down to the nuts and bolts. People are going to say, I won't do this. I won't fly this plane.
Who's going to say that? These people that are ICE, at least as I understand, numbers of them were the forgiven January 20th people that went to the Capitol and some of them, many, were in jail. And they've been yanked out of jail, and now they're the security force for the government with rights far and above those of local jurisdiction.
Jason, you're absolutely right.
So it's like, wait a minute, you want to know who these people are that you're saying, I think I'd like them to change. And the guys in the street are saying, the only way they're going to change is if they're gone.
How about this? Okay, how about this? You have local police. Their mantra is to protect and to serve. So their job is to protect the public. Their job is to protect the citizens, okay? Why don't they come out and say, no, these are human beings?
Well, they're now doing that. They've been feeling handcuffed. Now the governor in Minnesota has offered up the troops. And because he's offered troops to protect the people in the street, even though it was just a little thing, and now the police are back to their own. That was a little episode. So things are heating up. The whole country's going to talk about it. Your book is talking, and I think really important, personal. This is right. This is a personal change. You're talking about systemic change, and systemic change means we've got a lot of personals that got to get together. And just by itself, that's quite a thing.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's baked into our DNA. And if you look at our history, you have, the muscle people, the ones that are going to just beat up on the weak people.
You have it in your book. I mean, the environment in the book. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, if you look at history, forget about the book right now. Just look at history.
Well, we know history. History shows that we not only have war, we fight to create peace. What the heck is that about?
Okay.
But needless to say, we're not talking philosophy here as much. We can be, but I want to reference this book. Not only how it relates to society, but this is a really, I like to think of this book, maybe you do also, it's sort of a self-help book. When I read it through, and I'm reading the chapters and going through, I'm learning about different areas of who I am and how I think.
Yeah, so it's a natural thing for us to just rank ourselves and say, I'm better than so-and-so. My religion is better than whatever happens to be. And it's an individual choice that you make to simply say, wait a minute, let's rise above this. Let's do something above this. And you do it at the grassroots level. I know you're talking about the legislature. I know you're talking about, the macro end of everything. But it starts with, very simple individuals. Remember the Vietnam War. Remember, hell no, we won't go. Remember that line? Are you old enough to remember that? You got to be old enough to remember that.
I was old enough to remember that I was 126 in the draft lottery, and they were only going up to 100 that year. So I got myself declared 1A, and they didn't get to my number, and then they didn't call me.
I was number 8.
Oh.
So, and lucky me, it was the last time that they drew the draft lottery. So I'm younger than you are, just by a couple of years, whatever. And I just escaped it because they stopped doing that. And I was sweating that out because at that time they were pulling troops away from Vietnam, but they were still sending some troops over. So they were pulling away twice as much or 3 times as much as they were sending over. So that meant if I got sent over, there were fewer people over there that's going to watch my back, And it was a pretty crazy time. It was a crazy time. However, it was the individuals that said, hell no, I'm not going to put up with this. Hell no, I'm not going to fly a plane to El Salvador full with people that I don't even know if they're innocent or guilty.
There's no question to me that individual choice is possible. But in a situation like this, maybe I watched too many blacklist shows and all these shows. And someone's going to say, oh yeah, you're not going to cooperate? Boom. We're at war. This is...
Yeah.
So like here, this young man out, 37, half my age. This guy's an ICU nurse. He's trying to help a lady they just knocked down. They put him to the ground. Then they take a gun out of his pocket away, and then they shoot him 10 times. What's that? I don't care how many times I hear about this story. That is murder. And not only is it murder, we should all be up in arms. And that's what Dr. Triolo is saying. And how do we de-escalate this? It's going to take a major thing.
It may take going to violence. I don't know. I hope not.
Who initiates? That old thing about, do I wait and take the second shot? These guys are taking the first shot. It's really a very difficult and dangerous place we're at. But this book, I'm going back because this is about us making changes in our own lives.
Yeah.
And then that society we spoke about, it's not some remote thing. We recognize our personal responsibility to ourselves, and that is the community.
So
that's
why I'm here with you. That's why I even talked to you about having this program, because I want to do something.
Sure.
And one of the number one things that I can do is just offer my expertise.
Thank you.
Dealing with the kind of crisis that we're in, and we're in a crisis. We basically have hoodlums, in the administration. Either that or just completely stupid people,
Or hoodlums. Let's go back to the first choice. We don't have to go too far.
Yeah, so here we go.
Hey, if you've done some really serious crimes, don't worry. There's this guy at the top who's going to free you and put you into his militia. I'm sorry. I find it hard to keep my mouth shut.
It's okay. That's okay. Just go ahead and say it. But the important thing here is that we still have people who have brains. You know, we have generals, we have admirals that work their way up the system and really respect
They could be thrown
the
out, though.
Constitution.
They've been sidelined and marginalized continually by this administration.
But while they're there, before they're thrown out, you can actually make some decisions. You can say, I'm not going to shoot at this fishing boat with 5 people in it because somehow, somewhere, there's some drugs in there that are going to the United States.
Right. And so your second in command, when they relieve you of command, if they don't shoot you in the head right then and there, the second in command says, well, okay, I'll take over. And then what if you see your what ifs are what make me worry about our future, because the what ifs are hard to
and this
live.
This is where the book comes in. At some point, the whole society's got to look at this and say, this is wrong. We got to stop. I mean, the reason why I'm here is by looking at what's happening in Minnesota and seeing how innocent people, good-hearted people, caring people. You know, you talked about the gentleman that, you know, worked in ICU in the VA hospital. You know, he's going to be missed, not alone with their families and so forth. His work, you know, is fantastic. There's lots of people, thousands of people that are doing that, and they're all in danger. So at some point, people's got to step up and say, okay, I understand bullying is something that's part of our DNA. I understand that, you know, throughout our history, the people that have the most muscle are going to win. They're going to write the history books and so forth and so on. But not now. Not here. We're not going to do it here.
Well, The Psychology of Stupid. When you read it, if you take it as a novel and just go through, you'll realize the subject matter it's very nonfiction.
It is.
It feels like it's lessons learned in a fictitious.
Okay, so you want a chapter.
society.
The chapter is chapter 3. It's called The Sticky Ego. Okay? Look it up.
The sticky ego explains how self-worth becomes glued to achievement and status, creating insecurity and arrogance. True mental health comes from self-respect rather than inflated or deflated self-esteem tied to external validation. Is that a fair summary?
Very much so. And it's universal. And it takes place somewhere between the ages of like 5.5, 6, and 7.
Oh.
The sticky ego becomes sticky right around that time. You know, if you look at 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, they don't know the color of skin. They don't know what religion they're from. They're having fun, okay? And yeah, they can be aggressive, they can pull each other's hair, they can fool around, but they're basically having fun, enjoying life. Once you start passing through that sticky ego stage, then you start thinking about yourself compared to other people. And when you do that, then you start looking into the hierarchy. You know, you can say like, oh, you know, I got a C in my math test. What did you get? That kind of stuff. And if everybody else got D's and F's, you feel good about your C. If you get a C in a math test and everybody else gets A's and B's, you start feeling bad about yourself. So now your sense of self, your ego, becomes fused with the ups and downs of life. And if you have money in the bank account, in our culture, that's supposed to be very, very important. That's supposed to be high on the hierarchy. That means you can get away with murder. That means you can have 34 felonies and still become president of the United States. You see?
Who did that?
Okay, so at some point, you reach a point of enough. Enough is enough. You got to stop this. And that's what I'm hoping to do. I'm not going to act stupidly. I'm not going to bend the knee to some kind of principle that puts, you know, a grandmother in jail, or, you know, takes a 5-year-old and puts him in a detention center in Texas. I'm not going to do that. I just won't do that. And if you're going to shoot me, shoot me. And then, deal with the consequence of that.
Well, you are a very idealistic doctor. I guess that's why you're a doctor. You deal with people one by one. I would say this should be a primer for everyone to read. We've noticed we have room in the. We're going to keep the title and stuff up in front of us. Thank you for joining us. We're going to do more of these, so you'll be hearing more of Dr. Santo Triolo. He's here in Wailuku, Maui, and we're going to name the. We'll see. I think we're going to call it Santo and Schwartz, or Santo and the Schwartz,
Whatever.
or whatever we're going to call it. We want you to watch and keep coming back, and we'll have little pieces and excerpts, not from the book, but from life, and see how it all fits together. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye. Can't help looking at you.
Hey, everyone. He can't help looking at me. This is Dr. Santo Triolo, and I asked him to include you when he's talking to me. But tell me, Doc.
Yes.
Doc, you can mind I call you Doc?
Sure. Go ahead.
We're here to talk about the world, but the bottom line is I had read and looked at this book, The Psychology of Stupid. When I looked at the cover, I thought, that looks sort of like Einstein. I bet that's the author. And when I met him, I was like, that is the author. This is a self-contained, look at that picture. You don't quite look like that.
I had a haircut.
You had a haircut?
Yeah, my doctor told me I had to lose some weight, so I got a haircut.
That's a good way to do it.
Okay.
So, Doc, thank you for joining me here
Sure.
again. We are in a series of shows where we're going to talk about the book, The Psychology of Stupid, but the way we found that's really relevant is either we pick a chapter and point to the world, or we point to the world and then we pick a chapter or two. So I'm going to let you, Doc, pick another thing. Where do you want to start? You want to start from a chapter, or do you want to look at a world event?
Let's look at a world event. Let's
Okay.
look at what's happening to ourselves.
Where?
What? Well, we talk about ice, right? That's sort of
Ice. He's not talking about the kind you freeze in your freezer.
No.
We're talking about the episodes that are happening about immigration.
Yeah. And the parallel to that is Germany in 1932 to 35. Have you ever heard of the brown shirts?
Well, the brown shirts have got to be the ice guys. It's
Right.
a private. Was it private force? Was it
I don't know if it was a private force, but it was funded by the Nazi Party.
a party?
Yeah.
Not the country. Party?
Party, right.
Okay.
And
Wow.
they went around beating up on people, particularly Jews. If you had like a storefront that you were Jewish, they would break down the windows and so forth and so on. And there was no consequences. They just had no consequences whatsoever. They would go in groups, and they would have not vans, but they would have trucks, and they would come out and they would just pile up on someone. Innocent people that would not follow the Nazi Party. One of the things that they were looking for is for communists at the time. But the point I want to make is that they're the ones that had the power, and they were just using their muscle to beat up on everybody else. Guess what's happening today? They're not called brown shirts today, although some of them were wearing brown shirts. They're ICE. They're border patrol people.
Immigration control is what it is. We talk so innocently. It was years ago here in Maui, and I remember, may she rest in peace, Tasha Kama was part of a group called FACE. This was churches very concerned that many of their constituents who were Mexican and third world Filipino and all kinds of things were getting raided and harassed, and they wanted to know about that. It's got to be 20 years ago, easy. So, and somehow we were able to simmer the thing down. Now it's a little more aggressive.
Right. And the thing that's important to understand now is that there are no consequences. The person that did the shooting in Minneapolis, the two people that did the shooting in Minneapolis, are they in custody?
No, 2 people, 10 shots, 2 people. Is that right?
No, the first one was that 37-year-old woman. Remember?
Oh, Renee.
Right.
Good.
That's right. And she was shot. I don't know how many times she was shot in the head. And I don't know if they arrested the person. I don't think he was ever arrested. And the second incident that took place, of course, was the young man who was trying to save or help a woman, doing the Good Samaritan thing. And they just piled up on him and they just shot him.
Why would they shoot after the gun was taken? That alone, that's where it turns to murder.
Because they can. Because they don't worry about being in custody. Because
they've gotten that brown shirt.
Right. Because they have
pass.
They have the backing of a hoodlum, which was Adolf Hitler. Same thing here.
And President Hoodlum.
Yeah. Same thing. I mean, basically.
So in the book, I'm again, we can talk about these subjects, but I want to be sure that you realize that's the reason that we hooked up, because I thought this is really a manual. So what do you think here? You have any feelings of where?
Yeah, so what we need to do is we need to rise above these tendencies that we have, okay? The hierarchy thing. Like you just mentioned, people that come here from Mexico, people have come here from the Philippines, they may feel slighted because they're less human, blah, 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 whatever that description is. They're not less human, they're human beings like anybody else. But remember the history. The history was that the Filipino people, the Philippines used to be owned by the United States. So already you have that, hierarchy thing that the people from the United States are superior, whatever you want to describe, to the people in the Philippines. You see? And it doesn't matter. I'm not trying to pick on the United States.
No.
It's universal.
They're easy to pick on, by the way.
But, look at Japan. Okay? I came from Columbus, Georgia. I spent some time in Columbus, Georgia. There are a lot of people that immigrated from Korea. And back then, this is like 25 years ago, whatever. Back then, there are some people that still have crazy feelings and memories of the Japanese taking over Korea. And the Japanese saw the Koreans as being secondary humans. They're not real humans, or whatever. For that matter, the Japanese looked at the white people as being secondary to them. So it's not just the United States, it's everywhere. You have to talk about Russia, okay? You talk about, Napoleon in France. One of the reasons why Napoleon became powerful in France is because he told the French people, we're French. We're better than anybody else. We're French. And that gave him license to go into Russia, go into Africa, go into, different parts of Europe and so forth and so on.
So I don't want to put myself in the situation exactly, but I want to use this as a manual. What will you open up and say, hey, if they read the chapter, there's a chapter in here, again, I think it's interesting, Packaged Minds. Society mass produces beliefs, identities, and opinions. Many people adopt prepackaged thinking to gain belonging, sacrificing independent thought. Conformity feels safe but undermines wisdom and personal responsibility. These are pretty good little summaries.
So what does I mean by packaged mind? Well, if I interview someone, okay, and I ask them about, how do you feel about abortions and so forth. If they have a right to life, then you pretty much know that they're going to vote for a Republican. They probably are big with the rights to hold arms. That they probably are very Christian oriented and maybe even militant in terms of Christian. You basically see that they just have a package of minds together, and you can pretty much predict what kind of people they are. If I interview someone and someone says that women should have a right to their bodies, pretty much I can predict they're going to vote Democrat. Pretty much are going to see liberal ideas from them and so forth and so on. So what I want people to do is to break away from everything has to fit into a certain mold and just think for yourself, when you have a packaged mind, you basically have a mind that shuts down. It doesn't think.
Yeah.
And it's pretty serious stuff, because
No,
now
I mean,
we have AI, okay, that's coming around the
It's
horizons.
here.
It's already
it's
here. Okay. Well, one of the things that I worry about more is not AI, is the people becoming very lazy. I'll let AI do this. I'll let AI come up with a conclusion. This is too much work for me to think it through. Let AI come up with the solutions, or whatever it happens to be. And we're finding out that could be a mistake. We're finding out that some AI programs make up stuff.
And we also find out that AI, garbage in, garbage out. I found that AI isn't always accurate. It not only makes up stuff, but the output from AI is subject to a very dry sense of looking at the information. I haven't found a warmth edge. They talk about different ways to have it talk to you. Personal and loving and gentle, or a bit warlike, all kinds of ways. But I had things where it just switches the content, and so be very careful out there.
Okay.
I'm
You want to hear
concerned.
something pretty scary?
Okay.
You ready? Are you sure?
You guys
okay.
ready?
Okay. So there was an incident where someone was going to pivot from a research project to another research project. He was going to shut down a certain portion of the research project to a newer one, thinking this is a better avenue and so forth. AI has invested all kinds of a content for this old project, and guess what? AI, independent of garbage in, independent of this, tried to steer him back to the old project. In other words, independently,
made the decision
he made
to
the
steer him
decision.
back.
Yeah, this is what you need to do here. And the reason why they did that is because somehow, I don't want to project humankind to, but somehow AI felt like they were threatened because that old project was being shut down. Imagine that.
No, it's not surprising. I have a segment that I play on my show sometimes. The head of the Nobel Prize Committee this year has decided that artificial intelligence is the winner of this prize for the year, and we've discovered that artificial intelligence and general intelligence and all the use of this is really something to watch. We've discovered that if the people that are creating it don't have profit as a motive, it's something that can help society and change our world in a better way. But if we don't have that kind of level of understanding that can't be for profit, that change won't happen, and it could cause the destruction of mankind. That's the Nobel. Those are the people that said, "Oh yeah, you can't give away a Nobel Peace Prize to someone else. Now he can't become a Nobel Peace Prize person either." Oh, it's Donald Trump. So I'm sorry, I can't help but get back to the levels of what's going on now.
Okay, so you touched something which I think is kind of an important thing.
Please.
Okay, in the book we talk a little bit about greed. And greed is something that's part of our DNA, part of the 7 deadly sins that we have. Well, we don't have to go to school to learn how to be greedy. You don't have to go to school to learn how to be lazy. So all these sins that they, quote unquote, that they've listed in the Bible, all that comes very natural to us. So the whole theme of the book is to wake up, recognize that we can have envy in our world. We can feel greedy. We can feel the tension of taking advantage of someone else and so forth. And it takes effort. You have to turn on your brain. It takes effort to say, stop. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to, I'm not going to buy a big screen TV because my next door neighbor bought a big screen TV, because I don't have the credit card, capacity to do that. I don't have, the capacity to go into debt even more than I already am. But sometimes greed just takes over. They go like, I deserve it just as much as my next door neighbor, so I'm going to buy it no matter what. Here's my credit card. So that's what you have to do. That's the whole essence of the book, is to help people wake up and overcome the DNA that we have in terms to, stay stupid and so forth. And that's why I think, people can pivot. You mentioned Nobel. Do you know the story of Nobel? You know who he was?
Please.
He was an inventor. He invented dynamite.
Oh.
He invented dynamite, and he thought that dynamite, because it was so powerful, was the weapon to use when nobody would use it anymore. In other words, this would be the end point, that we never have any war anymore because dynamite is so powerful. It's just
sort of like we talk about the nuclear bomb
exactly,
now.
exactly. Okay. Obviously, he was wrong, and obviously, he lived long enough to realize that the war kept on going, and people kept on killing each other, even with more powerful weapons like the dynamite. He felt so guilty, and he made money off of the dynamite. He felt so guilty that he decided that he was going to make the Nobel Prize set up and funded with the money that he made from the dynamite.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. But the point here is he pivoted. He pivoted. He turned something that was destructive into something that's very, very positive. So it's in our power to overcome our DNA.
And I imagine that's how you work with your individual clients.
Right.
You, what do they say? Clear their view to see how powerful and capable they are to make those choices. Some people don't feel they have the capacity to make those.
And some people reach a plateau and they don't get any farther than that. So let's say someone like Putin. Okay, people talk about Putin in terms of being evil. He's basically stupid. Where's it going? How old is he now? Let's say he wins the war with Ukraine. Big deal. He's going to die. And how's he going to end up in the history books? Like Stalin?
He will be, it depends whose history book, right? Yeah, I mean, I can only understand that the details of why wars are fought boils down to selfish. It's selfish peace.
Yeah, he's greedy. Well, I mean, he's not. If you look at his history, how he grew up, okay, he grew up with the Soviet Union being a very, very powerful force in the world. Okay, he worked his way up to the high ranks of the KGB. Remember?
Sure.
Okay, and all of a sudden, it broke down in the 1980s. I think it was 86 or whatever. It broke down. So that affected him, and he wanted to get back to that power. But it's an empty power. He's too stupid to realize it's an empty power.
Or he's just, I guess the word, thinking he's doing good, but being very short-sighted. I don't know. When he's being invited to this new Gaza Board of Peace,
Yeah.
I thought, well, that's a real possible olive branch. Like the neutral zone that I do is everyone comes to the table. If we sit and really honestly talk about things, maybe we can come to have empathy for others at the table so that when we make our decisions, they come from a different place. So maybe inviting someone like a Putin to a board of peace where the whole world is now going to look at something might, again I say I might. I can't look into someone's head, but I'm hoping that from all this good can happen, because I'm afraid I don't have a lot of confidence based on history that we are going to stop, even though the end of the world is really I don't know, dynamite was pretty powerful, but a nuclear bomb that could pollute everything else, that seems we're getting toward really powerful.
Yeah. So it's a question of coming to our senses. And the first chapter there, okay, talks about the difference between intelligence and wisdom, right? With intelligence, you can make dynamite. With intelligence, you can make nuclear warheads, right? With
the
wisdom, you decide not to use it.
May we all get wisdom. One wisdom, go check out this book, Psychology of Student. The Psychology of Stupid. Did I just say the Psychology of Student? That's interesting. I have really always enjoyed our conversations. I hope you'll come and we'll do some more of these. Want to do that?
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for joining us. Dr. Santo Triolo, he is here in Wailuku, Maui, and yet you can contact him by email and be in touch with him because you do things at a distance too, I'm sure. Not only that, very nice man. I bet he'd even respond to your email.
Thanks.
Aloha, everyone. See you again.
Ciao.
Hey, everyone. Aloha. I'm Jason Schwartz, your host. We are here at Santo and Schwartz. We came out of the neutral zone where I met Dr. Santo Triolo. He wrote a book called The Psychology of Stupid. And it's a terrific book. It's very friendly. Feels like you're reading a novel, but it's got such depth and a real direction. I appreciate it. You know, as I was reading it, reading the titles of the chapters is almost like a fun ride to say, okay, I could read from the beginning on, but someone told me I can go to any chapter I want. So I went to it and I went, how are nuns and prostitutes alike? Doctor, is that right? Well, let me, extreme labels, obscure shared humanity. You hear that? Extreme labels, obscure that we're sharing everything and that we're all human together. The chapter dismantles moral stereotypes, showing how society simplifies complex psychological motivations to avoid discomfort and self-reflection. So talk to me, Doc.
Yeah, that chapter.
Sister Mary Louise is really swinging a whistle, huh?
Okay, I'll give you the answer without even, other people reading it. But basically, it's about looking at our culture. And our culture is sexually deprived and love deprived. And what we find is that there's a splintering going on, that the sexual world, our physical sexual desires and so forth, are sometimes separate from the emotional world, the emotional connections, the relationships that people have. And it's not done, on purpose to hurt us or anything like that. It's just the way our structure of our society happens to be. And it's really kind of funny. How they are alike is just that both prostitutes and nuns sort of separate the sexual, physical, component of affection and kindness and all that stuff with the emotional component. So if you talk to a nun, they don't believe in sex. They've carved that out of their lives, and they're devoted to whatever, altruistic goals they have and so forth and so on. Prostitutes, they have sex, but they've cut it out of their personal life. Their personal life is different than their professional life being a prostitute. There's a division, there's a component that sort of cuts that out. So how they're alike, they're both able to somehow separate their personal life from their life in terms of sexuality.
So let me ask, I don't know is that a progressed person, or is that someone missing an element?
Yeah. So what it comes down to is maturity of sexual development has sort of arrested in our country. So we're still at what I call in the book the phallic stage. Now, the phallic stage is where you're focused on genitalia. You're focused on the mechanics of sex. And you go on TV, you spend like a half an hour just watching a show on TV, and you're going to get at least one commercial about, sexual enhancement for men and so forth and so on, right? You've seen those, right? Okay, that's not the goal. The goal is to integrate whatever physical capacities you have into the emotional capacity. blend them together, have them part together.
I have to admit, when I was in college, you guys are going to hear this, you've heard, every time I had sex with a woman, I suddenly felt this love for her and wanting to help. And so I found emotion and physical kind of went together. How is it suddenly separated so strongly?
Because it's easier to go with the passion, the physical passion.
Is this an evolved? I mean, I wonder, let's call it 60 years ago. And I was feeling like a little bit less. I wasn't having sex at 15. Okay. but I'm just wondering, how did that's just what felt natural, that I felt a new closeness that I didn't even understand it. But that physical intimacy created an emotional intimacy. And you're saying that somehow the nuns and the prostitutes go, I'm going to rip them apart.
You don't have to rip them apart, okay? You're unusual.
Really?
Yeah, you're the anomaly.
Oh, I didn't get that.
And the reason why is this, because we reach sexual maturity at a very, very young age, okay? We reach a maturity where we can make babies, right? And how old? I mean, 14, 15 years old, you can make a baby, okay? And our DNA is designed to be very passionate, to fall into that passion so that we can continue with our species, okay? Mother Nature doesn't care about love. It doesn't care about, what the society is expecting, our culture is expecting, and so forth and so on. All it cares about is let's keep the
procreation going on.
Keep the species going. So that maturity level comes very early in life. However, to have a loving relationship with someone, to be a responsible person in a loving manner, to give yourself up, if you will, to the relationship, so that you don't become selfish with what you're worried about, whether you're going to be loved or not, and so forth and so on. That takes a special kind of maturity that doesn't take place when you're 13, 14, 15 years old. It doesn't take place when you're 30 years old. And I fear in our culture that it doesn't take place until you die. And that's the thing that's really important, because we're focusing on, I pick on the guys with, the pills and all that stuff. But you know how much money is being spent on, enhancing breasts? There's a guy, he was Iranian, and he was a plastic surgeon, and great guy. He would close down his practice for a whole month, go to South America, and take care of kids that have cleft palates and so forth and so on, completely free. He'd pay the way for his staff, the material, whatever he needed, he brought with him, and it's on his dime. But he was a millionaire. Probably in today's world, he'd be a billionaire. And all he did was take care of breasts. How I know it, because he would turn to me from time to time to see whether someone is, in the right mind to make a decision such as that and so forth. But it's a $1 billion industry. And you see 40-year-old, 50-year-old women, looking to enhance their bodies in some way, shape, or form, or whatever it happens to be. Now, where does that come from? It comes from our DNA. In our species, the women display themselves to the men. Okay? Men are designed to be visually oriented so that they could be, responsive and so forth. So their visual content is important. And we're stuck with that, even though we're adults. So, rising above that is very, very important. And you have to understand that we're going against Mother Nature, because Mother Nature sets us up to just make babies when we're 16, 17 years old.
So when I'm an anomaly or I'm an exception, why?
I don't know.
Was it from
maybe the way you were brought up?
Learning to be respectful of someone in my world?
Yeah.
And now I had someone in my world, closer than closer than ever, right? That's what sex was and is. So that was always it intrigued me. I was like, why am
And
I so?
actually, Jason, you're actually Anomalies still, right?
Am I?
Yeah. I mean, how many people are willing to do what we're doing right now, knowing that maybe it's not as lucrative as being like in Wall Street?
Yeah, I get it. Well,
The thing is that you may want other people to feel the way you do, but it's just not realistic.
and I could say tit for tat. We're going to try to get the world to suddenly be good and stop fighting. It's quite a tale.
I got to tell you a story about
Please.
a young man. I was a young man at the time, and there's a guy who was about my age, and he had 2 strokes. Second stroke really did him in. He couldn't read. In fact, he had to have papers like right up to his nose in order for him to read. And so, when I first got him, I asked the usual questions to cover all the bases, and I asked him about his sex life. And I'll never forget this. He smiled at me, and he said, "I love my wife, and I know my wife loves me tremendously. And I'm not young like you are," because I was in my 30s at the time. He said, "I'm not young like you are, but we just get together and we make Jell-O."
And what?
We make Jell-O. Now, I never asked him, what the hell does that mean? Okay? But I got the message. The message is, this area, I'm good. I'm covered. Isn't that great? And I remember this guy forever. I mean, he's just fantastic. We worked through things that, were very, very difficult for him because he had his own business. He sort of had to slip away from his business as time passed because it was just too much of a strain on him. But when it comes to his sexual intimacy and the love that he has the love that was between him and his wife, you don't have to touch that. You don't have to work on that.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. But how many people can get to there? How many people can get to there?
Well, as I am continuing my dreaming process,
Okay.
I'm feeling like Swiss cheese because I'm dealing with people that may not have a stronger personal conviction or haven't yet come to terms with a lot of the stuff. That's why I think of this as a self-help book, because a lot of these concepts, they're simple concepts, but they're powerful and important. And upon reflection, and that's why it feels like a primer, like I should keep going back to different places in the book. I hope that you guys will check out The Psychology of Stupid. And if you're anywhere and you want to talk to Dr. Triolo, please respond. He not only has an email address here, but I know that he's just really a wonderful man, and he's been helping a lot of people. Thank you for joining me again here. I hope we can do some more of this again.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Aloha, everyone.
Ciao.
Breathe. Pick another chapter.
How do you like it so far?
How do you like it?
Well, I think it's a lot of fun.
Right. And these are little pieces, so they can go in.
Okay.
Even in shows I'm doing, you see, they can stand alone.
You want to do Unbinding Love?
What chapter?
Chapter 15.
Three, 2, Unbinding Love. 3, 2, 1. Aloha, everyone. My name is Jason Schwartz. I am here with Dr. Santo Triolo here in Maui, Hawaii.
Hello.
And those of you that know our show, or shows, knows that we've started a series looking at The Psychology of Stupid, written by Dr. Triolo. And I have thought that the best way that I wanted to go through this is pick a chapter and then talk about what's going on in the world. Or pick something in the world and focus on the chapter. So today we're going to do chapter 15. Let me read this to you. Unbinding Love. Love becomes distorted when fused with fear, possession, or ego. Genuine love requires emotional independence, self respect, and freedom rather than attachment and control. Okay, that seems right to me. So tell me, Doc, pick something out and show me where that's relative.
Well, there's an actual story in here it's real. It's actually the story of my mom.
Oh,
And the character is Carmela, and Carmela was my mom's name.
oh,
Now, just I'm going to use that as sort of the beginning and tell you a little bit more about what's going on.
sure.
When I was teaching, people were talking about unconditional love and how you have to have unconditional love to have real love and so forth. And my argument is no. Unconditional love is not very healthy. It's okay if you have an adult, like a parent and a child, to give the child unconditional love, because the child doesn't know any better. And even though the child will say, I hate you, or whatever, you still love them. You still care for that person and so forth. But when there's two adults, it can be very, very unhealthy, because unconditional love will include things like, it's okay, you can beat me, I'll still love you. It's okay, you can drain my bank account and I'll still love you. It's okay, you can, belittle me, and you can, make fun of me and so forth and so on. I still love you, that kind of stuff.
That's an interesting one. I've adopted a personal thing as best I can. I call it forgive immediately. It's like I find so much casual abuse in people's words and in the way they treat each other. I know that that one of the Jesus said, he said, you got to forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. He didn't say it quite that way.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know. I don't know what he said. He might have said that.
It's okay to forgive, but it's not okay to disrespect your own boundaries. It's okay to forgive, but it's still very, very important that you protect yourself and that you don't put yourself in danger. I had a lady years ago. She was sent to me by the shelter. It's a women's shelter and so forth. But they had a strict rule. If you go back to the perpetrator one time, they'll take you back. But if you go back to the perpetrator a second time, they said, you know what? Those beds are very valuable. We can't use you. I'm sorry. Good luck.
So say that one slower again so these guys get it and I really hear it.
Okay. Just very simply, years ago, I had a lady that came to me, and she was referred to me by the women's shelter. Okay, right. And that shelter, it was a different state. That shelter had this rule that they'll take care of you, they'll attend to you, and they'll work with you. But if you go back to the perpetrator, that's strike one against you.
So in other words, if you're being abused and you come to us, we'll help you. But if you go back to the same person and you do it again, the door's not open.
Well, the first time
we'll
around,
put you to the psychologist.
Yeah. No, the first time it's okay. The first time it's okay. They'll take them back, and they'll have counselors there to take care of them and so forth. But if you do this a second time, then the door shuts. And so she kept on knocking on the door, So finally, they called me and said, "We have a principle. We have to stick by it. But can you help her?" So I'm not sure how many sessions we've had together, but after several sessions, she just turned to me and confronted me, and she says, I can't help loving him, the perpetrator, the husband. And my response to her was, I'm not asking you to stop loving him. I'm asking you to be safe. How many times are you going to go to the hospital? How many times, you're going to take the risk that he may someday, by accident, he's going to, kill you? And that hit home with her. So the issue is not, if you have loving feelings towards someone, you can keep those loving feelings, but respect your own boundaries. Put up the boundaries that you need to put up to so that you can become safe.
So when we talk about unbinding, we're talking about...
So unbinding love, you respect your boundaries. Unbinding goes like, okay, that's enough. You can't hit me anymore. I'm going to let you go. And I can still love you, but
we're not going to stay
okay.
too close.
Yeah.
I see.
Or the other way around. The other way around would be, let's say you have an attachment towards someone, and that someone doesn't have the attachment to you, and decides that he or she wants to go off to somebody else. People that have these strong attachments can also have this underbelly of negative stuff that can happen. Like, no, stay with me. I've got a case right now where, there's this threatened to suicide. If you leave me, I'm going to kill myself. You can't do this, okay? And that's just manipulation. That's what it is. It's just simple manipulation. So, unbinding love would be something like, if someone leaves you, wish them well. Let them find somebody that they do love and whatever. That kind of thing. So here's a story of my mom. I gotta give it to you. It's a fun story.
Listen, guys.
Okay. So she's Sicilian, and my father's also Sicilian, and they met. I'm going to give you the story about how they met and so forth. But they decided they want to get married, and so my father turned to her and said, I have some brothers in the United States, and I'm going to go there to see if I get a good job, and see if it's a good life for us, and then I'll come back and we'll get married and so forth. Well, when he left, her cousin went, that's it, he's going to marry somebody from the United States. The American women are more sophisticated than Italian women. You can just forget about him.
Write him off.
Just write him off. And what she said was, not just to relatives, but to friends and so forth, she said, I know he has a good heart, and I do want him to be happy. And if being happy means that he finds a new person there in the United States, I wish him the very, very best. He came back. He got married. And thank God I'm here. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. But the point I want to say is that she had the inner strength, inner self about herself. She respected her own boundaries, and she said, okay, I still love you unconditionally, whatever. Unbinding. I'm not going to force you to come back. So some people were saying, like, get married before he leaves, that kind of thing, Put a bind on him, put handcuffs on him. That way he has to come back to you. And she said, no.
It's the butterfly thing. Let the butterfly fly free. If he comes back to you, same concept.
So attachment is good, okay? But there's an underbelly to the attachment. And the underbelly to the attachment is, I need you. I want you. Don't leave me. If you leave me, I'm going to die. If you leave me, I'm going to kill myself, and so forth and so on. That's bad news. That's really bad news. And it's infested in our culture. How many songs do you know? Like, you're the one and only, I can't live without you. You are my life. No. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Ray Charles comes up immediately in my mind. But yeah, I keep thinking how powerful our culture is, and that our leaders, the arts and music people.
So when I teach it, and this is part of the book you're talking about, I teach it, I want to differentiate the difference between unbinding love with unconditional love. I want to show that unconditional love could be very dangerous. It could be very, very unhealthy for you. Unbinding love is the special one. Okay.
That's really very powerful. That's really important.
Yeah.
I really have enjoyed it. You know what I think? I think we're going to let them wait for another show. You guys will come back. We're going to do another couple of chapters in a little bit. I'm Jason Schwartz. This is Dr. Santo Triolo. You can contact him. The email address you're seeing on the screen. We're Santo and Schwartz. We're here in Maui, Hawaii. See you again. Aloha.
Aloha. Hi, Jason. I had thoughts about a particular chapter in the book, and I'm going to be honest about it. I wrote that chapter about 3 times.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and the name of the chapter is called Statistics Don't Lie, People Lie. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to educate people in terms of what statistics are all about, because it's all around them, and it's being used to sometimes exploit them as much as possible. A good example would be going to Las Vegas. People in Las Vegas are very sophisticated. They know the statistics inside and out. That's how they make money. In fact, I'm surprised that any of these casinos, eventually go belly up. Anyways, the people that I used to teach statistics, and
Yeah.
the people that read the chapter that knew statistics thought it was pretty well watered down,
Oh.
and it was kind of simplistic and so forth. But the people that I wanted to get across, they never had statistics in the past, and a lot of them just sort of skipped over the chapter, or if they read the chapter, they didn't quite pick it up, and so forth. So it was very, very difficult for me to try to write something that people would find interesting and at the same time find very, very useful. I think I mentioned to you sometime in the past about, statistics are used in areas of insurance. Insurance companies make lots and lots of money. And the reason why they make lots and lots of money is because they have the formulas down in statistics to a T. And they know where the risks are and where the risks are not. And they can construct the kinds of programs for people to sign off on, without realizing that, I should say, that they're basically signing off money after money after money without really getting anything in return. So that's kind of an important thing for people to know, that they could be had.
So you're not saying that insurance is an issue. You're saying that the companies that do it make their plans, and they, in the way they write it, avoid the risks that are going to bury them.
Exactly.
Which means that you are not going to have issues that are going to be quite as expensive over time as they're charging you. That's what you're saying.
That's correct. That's correct. I had a house that I paid insurance so that I can be covered for all kinds of disasters and so forth.
Right.
And they collected my premiums, no problem. And just years go by. Well, I had well water in this particular house, and the copper plumbing over time deteriorated because the mineral was coming out of the well water.
I see.
So in a span of 2 years, I had 3 claims. They paid the claims, but they shut me down.
Meaning, you've been too much risk for us.
Exactly, just get lost, So, when I was a teenager, I had trouble finding, insurance for my car. And even though I was in graduate school as a teenager, very, very, respectable and responsible human being, I got into graduate studies and so forth and so on. Insurance companies just turned me down. They just said, no, you're too young. Not until you're 25 do we, want to, take on a policy for you. And why? Well, the reason why is because they go by the statistics. They don't care about the individual. They go by, if you're 16, 17, 18 years old, chances are you're going to get into an accident, and it's going to be out of our pocket. So we're not going to even bother with that, that lifestyle and so forth. One of the things I put in the book as an example is, if you have a claim and you call up the insurance company, let's say you have an accident of some sort, they may act as if they care about you, like, oh, did anybody get hurt, or what happened, and is everybody out of the hospital now, or whatever it happens to be. They sound real nice and caring, but really what they're doing is they're interviewing you to find out where the loophole is. So in the interview, they find out that you happen to be out of the house. There's a lady that had water damage because her washer broke down. Well, she happened to be at the neighbor's house while the washer was going. And because she was out of the house, the insurance company found that as a loophole and did not pay for the damage.
Because she wasn't being responsible and
according to them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you sign the policy, even though that's in there, it's in the fine print somewhere, and you just simply don't realize what you're signing away. They do this on purpose. This is something that they do on purpose.
So what's this chapter called?
It's called Statistics Don't Lie, People Lie. and it's about statistical analysis. I'll give you another example. You've seen a commercial on television where, 4 out of 5 dentists,
recommend,
approve of, this toothpaste, whatever it happens to be. Well, think about this. If you do your work, you're not lying really, and you start interviewing dentists, eventually, by chance alone, you're going to get 4 out of 5 dentists that are going to approve a certain toothpaste.
Oh, and so then you create your study around those 4 to 5 dentists, so the statistics come out the way you want.
Exactly.
Is that what we're talking? Statistics don't lie. People lie.
Right.
They use those statistics and manipulate them. Wow.
Yeah. What's happening right now with medications, for example, let's say I have a new medication, okay, and I'm a big farmer, I got lots of money, and you're from the University of Hawaii, and I say, Professor, I want you to study this medication. I think it's better than the ones that we normally have. This is superior. And then I go to the University of California, and I talk to the professor. Professor, I'm going to give you some money. I want you to do a research project. I want to see if my medication works better than what we normally have. Then I go to the University of New Mexico, University of Kansas, Kansas State University, Harvard University, all right? And so after they do all the studies, I go to you, I say, Professor Schwartz, what'd you get? And you go, I didn't find any difference. It's basically the same. Okay, go to University of California. How about you? What did you get? Oh, there's no difference. It's basically you're wasting extra money here. Go to New Mexico, same thing. Go to Harvard, same thing. Go to Kansas State. Oh yeah, there's a difference here. And so all these other, research projects, they never get published. The ones that get published are the ones that there's a difference.
Oh, so there's the people lying. Even the people collecting the statistics are manipulating it to their advantage.
Exactly.
I see.
Exactly. Now, how do you get around that?
Well, can you do me a favor?
Sure.
Hold up your book right in front of your chest.
Sure.
Just so, look at that. You see that? Now, I look at that and I see the face above, and then the face on the book, and down on your tie, pull your tie up a little bit. It looks like you happen to be wearing, look at that. You guys are all in the same thing. That's good. I just wanted to let everyone see what fun you are, because most people think a psychologist. Yeah, this is
psychologists are fun. You know that, right?
That's right. They are very fun. That's why you go see them. They make you lie on the couch. Do you have a couch? You have a couch.
Yeah.
Do you use it? I use it.
Sure.
Wow.
Sure.
Well, we're going to do some more of these little things. So I hope that you enjoyed this little clip. We're going to do some more of these.
Take care. Aloha.